Hi, I'm Michelle B. Griffin, and welcome to the podcast of the She's Visible movement, the show where we help women, experts, and leaders become recognized authorities in their fields. Each week, join me and my guests as we share our lessons, our stories, and what it really takes to build the visibility and personal brands of women just like you. I'm delighted you're here. Now let's get going with today's show. Hey everybody, it's Michelle, and so glad you're here because today is a jam-packed episode. If you're struggling right now with content, or maybe you need some more ideas and inspiration for the work you're putting out there now, perhaps you have a book, you have speaking topics, you have blogs, you have courses, anything that you could think of right now, I have something that I'm going to share in this episode that is truly a content amplifier for your work. It is going to give you so many use cases how you can take your existing body of work and create free podcast episodes, visuals, slides, quizzes, infographics. It's all coming from the magic of a tool called Google Notebook LLM. And the reason why I'm sharing this, because just a few weeks ago, I was on a podcast and dropped all these gems. I discovered this tool last year, but really struck gold, if you will, on how we can use it. Our women experts, founders, to really leverage our visibility, get out there and be seen and selected and chosen for all we're doing by putting our content out there in new ways. So what you're hearing is me being interviewed by the lovely and gracious Gillian Whitney, the podcast host of Easy Peasy Books. And let's get this out to more people because it is so good. I've gotten so much feedback. And that's exactly what we're doing. So you'll hear me interviewed. You're going to hear my use cases and her brilliant insights as well. And guess what? This is a free tool. This is absolutely free. So I can't wait for you to dive in. I would love to hear, how are you using the tool? Let me know. I always love to hear from my listeners. And you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, send me an email. Let's get our content and our work out there because your work deserves to be heard and amplified. So without further ado, let's get going with today's show.
Hello, everybody. We have a really exciting topic today. I'm just so jazzed. If you could see my hands, I would have jazz hands. That's how excited I am. So I have Michelle B. Griffin here. And so, Michelle, before we get started, can you go ahead and let people know who you are and what you do, and then we will get stuck in.
Well, it is wonderful to be here. I think this might be my third time. Third time's a charm because we're going to talk about some really intriguing ways for authors today. So I'm Michelle B. Griffin coming to you from Pensacola, Florida. I'm a PR-powered personal brand and AI visibility strategist and a TEDx and keynote speaker who is so passionate about helping accomplished women, speakers, authors, experts, be seen and sought after for what they do best. So I am here today to tell you a situation and a story that I uncovered that's going to be such a gold mine for your listeners, Gillian.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited about this because this is one of those things where we had a conversation offline, which is what prompted the podcast. And it was just like, oh my gosh, I wish I had known about this tool because it would have saved me so much time and energy and work. So anyways, we're talking today about Google Notebook LM, and you may be familiar with it or you may not be familiar with it. So we'll kind of make sure that we talk in many different ways to bring you up to speed. But just know, even if you're using this, stick around because you may be surprised at what you can do with it. Some people have just like, it's like our brains. We use such a small portion of it. I think the same is true for Google Notebook LM. People are using it, but they're not using it as power users. So we're going to teach you how to be ninjas today. And this is helpful for speakers and authors who want to speak and speakers who want to become authors, and everything in between. So Michelle, let's backtrack and start with what you told me about how you used it for one of your presentations, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, just a quick story. So I knew about Google Notebook LM a couple, I don't know, last year or so. When it first came out, people were using it as study guides, whatever. I looked around, tinkered, how cool is that? So what happened is I was getting ready for a presentation, a speaking presentation on my AI visibility guide, recognition ready AI visibility guide for experts. That's a mouthful. I wrote it several months ago. And to be honest, I kind of forgotten the stuff. Like I knew it, I need to reacquaint. So you know what I did? I had this brilliant idea. I am going to put the PDF of that guide into Notebook LM and ask it to generate its audio podcast. To me, that is the utmost coolest feature of all of them, but we're going to break all of them down. Took 5 minutes and gave me a 20-minute rendition of this 20-page PDF guide. So what did I do? I'm an audio listener, learner, and so I plugged it in I put in my AirPods and listened to it on my long walk that late afternoon. And because I heard 2 other people, these AI podcast hosts, just dissect to connect the dots with everything, it was instant for me to learn it. Even though I knew it, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's right." And you know what? They took my work and made points and references and synthesized things that I hadn't really thought about, and it was intriguing just for me, the author of it, like, "Wow, that is such an incredible way to say that." And so when I gave the presentation the next day, I was well equipped. I looked through it, but the audio is such a tool. Now, what does that mean? That means if you're an author, you can put your manuscript in LLM and get this podcast of it. But we're going to break down all this because I know some people are like, what? Wait, does that save all the things? So let's talk about that.
I love that. I love that. And I'm really happy that you defined that it wasn't just taking your audio, because we could do that. You could do your presentation. And I've done that for presentations where you record yourself. And then afterwards, I've gone back and I've listened to the audio, but I kind of put myself to sleep when I do that. And to be honest with you, I don't want to memorize my presentation. That's just a really important thing for me. And so that's what I liked about the Google LM, no, Notebook LM. If we could ever say the right thing, we'll laugh. But that's what I loved about this program is because you got a guy and a gal, and they're taking what you say, but they're kind of like putting their own spin on it. They're asking questions. And if anything, it's so valuable because we get too close to our material, whether we're talking about a presentation or our book, we're so close that we've kind of forgotten it, but we're also when we look at it, we it's kind of like when you keep proofreading your own book and you just like your brain is skimming and whatever. So hearing these other people is just gold because you're like, I didn't even think of it like that. So I love it. I love it. So what do you want to talk about first? The privacy concerns because that's
Yeah.
probably the biggest thing that people could get a
When
little
I
bit nervous
speak
about.
or teach or clients, I have clients who've written books too. And, just here and there, people say, well, I don't want to put my book. And we know that authors have been ripped off by chat. We just know that it can be out there. And so that's the number one thing people say, not just for a PDF of a book, for anything, is my information safe? On the Google LM, on the Google Notebook LM, I think they should have named it something different because we stumble over this name, both of you and I, but it specifically says your data, everything you put in here is absolutely walled like Fort Knox. They don't say it, but they mean it like that. It's not going anywhere. It's not on Uploading Claude or any of the other LLMs. It is just a safe space for your work because it's built for that. It's built for people to put their work to help them amplify it and synthesize it and make study notes and learn faster and connect the dots and make visual aids and all the things that you can do, which we'll get into in a minute for an author branding book segment. But it's safe. And that to me was the number one drawback, number one draw to it, because I don't want to put my stuff, even though I have private accounts for Chat and Claude, still don't really want to put it in the LLMs. You just never know.
Agreed. 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 And, if there's anybody that's like, well, I'm still not convinced, what you could do is it's amazing. You can upload, I believe on the free plan, up to 50 resources, 50. And you're just like, oh my gosh. So if you think about it, if you have, maybe you have your presentation, like maybe you've talked about your book on 4 or 5 podcasts and you're just like, okay, I've already talked about my book. And now it's like been 6 months or a year since I did that, and I'm kinda not up to speed anymore. You could literally just take those presentations and put them up. So there's lots of workarounds if you kinda go, "Well, I don't wanna put my manuscript up." There's other things that you can do, but I agree. I feel that it was, very safe. You're creating your own account. You will
Yeah.
create your free account. It's just your Google account, and so I don't know. I felt very, very comfortable with it.
And I have a Google paid account, a Google admin. So it's, I get it for free with that. But I feel safe. I mean, they're not going to lie to us. They're going to say it is because it is built, it's not built as a LLM, a large language model. This is where AI is your best asset to take your work and help you get it put all together and just give you talking points. To me, it's your brand voice. It's your brand. From a PR thing, it's your publicist. She can help you go, here's your talking points. Here's what you need to know in a GIF. This synthesizes everything. It takes large volumes of information and makes it super simple, connects the dots. So I even think someone who maybe is not even aware or in your industry, they get the gist of it. It is very, if you did the Fleshman's score, I wonder what level they talk on.
Mm.
It's not too easy, like for a kid, but it's not like, it'd be interesting if we took some really complex, engineering math stuff and see how they made it. It'd be interesting, but they make it interesting to listen to because the jawing, the banter between these two people is very conversational. It's not dry and boring at all. Did you find that?
Oh, I thought it was very conversational, and they kinda "Let me give you a little bit of pushback on that," they have little personal things, so both go, either way, which is kind of fun, and you can even customize it. So you could actually say, "Okay, I'm gonna be talking specifically about this." So maybe with your AI presentation, it's like you might say, "Okay, now I want to address it to lawyers," or something like
Yeah.
that. So now all of a sudden you have like a totally different way that you can take your content that the AI can maybe put that slant on for you. So now it's becoming, a collaborator with you. So just amazing things that you can do. And they create these, these kind of little podcasts, we call them. And they're like they range anywhere from 5 minutes to 20 minutes. They can actually be pretty long. But what I love is I'm like you, Michelle. I like to learn under sort of walking. Like I absorb things when I'm driving, when I'm walking. That is a much better, you're out with the birds, you're
Yeah.
by the water, the river, the ocean, or whatever, and you're learning about your own content as opposed to, in the house being stressed out. It's kind of low stress, just kind of you could while you're getting your makeup on, you could be learning. It's great. It's great.
And here's what I did, and that's another marketing thing. When I gave the presentation the next day, I had the, PDF they could go download. And let's face it, in today's day and age, not everyone wants to kind of download right away. I'm like, to whet your appetite, if you're more of an audio learner, here is also the link that you can go listen to the 20 minutes. And usually when people listen, they get interested because what I think they do give clues. They say, well, she has a checklist, she has an AI scorecard. So they help promote what I had, and I didn't ask them to do that. And so it's a like a sampler platter, for people to go to listen to it. You could do it with your books. In fact, I remember and I forgot that earlier in this year, or maybe it was even last year, I put my Position Yourself book in Notebook LM. And I remember thinking, oh, how cool is that? But I hadn't connected the dots myself on how important and how much the use case for it other than just this out of right, we're thinking out of the box here with
Right.
author branding and marketing and speakers too. So, yeah, it's phenomenal. So, not only that, let's talk about all the cool things because when I told you about it, I think you went and really deep dived in and did some cool things yourself.
Absolutely. I was so excited. So what I had as my case study, which I had to do after the fact. So I was recently on a podcast, and part of the podcast was a pre-event interview. And I'm like, I'm cool with that. We recorded an interview, and it was about an hour, and kind of went through everything, and they provided a podcast brief afterwards, and it was like 10 pages long. And I thought, well, I'm not going to study that. It was just like, I appreciated that they made it, but I really was not going to sit and study. And I thought, I'm going to be however I'm going to be. But I thought if only I had had Google Notebook LM, I would have uploaded that brief. I would have got the two people, making the little podcast, and I would have had that. But more importantly, I'm a visual learner. So I like to have a piece of paper. And so what I love is sketch notes. And, to me, a sketch note, I can do a whole presentation from a sketch note. I don't need speaker notes or anything, but sketch notes, I could get up and do anything. And so afterwards, what I did was I then asked it to make me a sketch note, and it did everything for me. And it was just like, if I had that one piece of paper, I would have just been able to be so comfortable on that podcast. But afterwards, it was like I realized I could do slides from it. I could make a video out of it. It was like on and on it went. You can make reports. And even when you get the reports, it's like, well, what kind of report do you want? Do you want study notes? Do you want a quiz? Do you want, it just goes brief. Like there's so many different things. And you're just like, oh my gosh, this is like a content generating machine. I could just use this for so many different things. And now all of a sudden I could have like with the study guide, I could now have questions. When people say, what questions would you like me to ask you? I could just say, here you go. Here's a bunch of questions.
It can be your publicist. They can help you make the media kit saying, here's my book, find the questions, do my bio, pull out all your stuff and, synthesize it, do the press release, everything. It really is, I really think it's poorly named. Like I'm a sucker for naming. Notebook LM does not just scratch the surface of how good this is. It's like a content amplifier and it's your private thing. If you put, say, that brief in chat or Claude, it would just generate, oh, here's what it said. But I'm like you, I'd just be, oh, yeah, that's good. But when I hear someone talking about it or I see something visually, I'm like, oh, it's easier to intake and then just present. I want to say on the fly, but if you know your stuff, you just need a reminder and go, oh, that's it, or a guide. So I think it helps us be stronger communicators and it can know your tone and your voice. You can load your podcast. It can help train, like, what is my content voice? Not writing
Mm.
yourself, but it can synthesize all that. It can pull, um, the big idea from some of your stuff. If some of your stuff is a little disjointed, like, what am I bring you back to center from a brand standpoint? It's, I don't want to talk it out of as our job, but I mean, it just really is something that if you have the content and you have the work already, it's going to help you. Now, if you don't know your work, this is where you and I come in because people come to me because they need me to help them position them and they can't do it on their own because we have too much information. And for you, people come to you, they have information, but they can't put the book together. So
Right.
they need us, but once you have your stuff, Notebook LM is a gold mine of opportunity.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. And another thing that I stumbled upon was that you can actually put in links to YouTube videos. And I was like how awesome is that? And I started thinking about it from a perspective of podcast guests. You and I both run podcasts, and a lot of times we have guests come on and they don't really have a good feel for our show. And, and the same might be with us. It's like we might be going on somebody else's podcast and we're just like, how does their show flow? What kind of questions can I anticipate? Do they do like a bunch of like quick little questions in the middle or something like that? You never know what to anticipate. So literally what you could do is you could take a podcast, go to YouTube and maybe get the last 3, 5, 6 episodes and put those links in. And then you could say to Google Notebook LM, summarize this show. What's the flow? What could I expect? What kind of questions? What kind of talking points? What kind of stories do they, would be good, or not stories that would be good, but do they like stories? Just kind of prepping you to be a guest. And I just thought that's gold, so that you would show up at a show and you'd be like ready to go.
Absolutely. And even to get on the show, if you take all their stuff and if they can listen at length to all these podcasts, so I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to the tone and the voice of some before you pitch it, but it's going to help you take a lot of content faster and get the gist of it. What is it they're missing? What is it, all that from a pitching standpoint too, because that's the one thing you and I get pitches that just are so irrelevant. And this, when a host gets a pitch that is so on point for their view and where they want to bring to their listeners or audience, it makes you pay attention. Most of us just go in the delete box because no one even bothers to match the audience with the pitch, right? It just seems so out of place so much. So this can get you on point for that too. Goodness gracious, we could probably write on Notebook LM. There might even be one on Amazon. I haven't even
We could.
checked.
We could. And then one fun thing I did today was I thought, okay, what else can I do with this? Just kind of thinking outside the box. And so one of the things I thought was I was going to go ahead and take your LinkedIn profile, Michelle. So I just went to LinkedIn. And for anybody who doesn't know this, you can go to LinkedIn and you can actually download a PDF of somebody's profile. And it's a summary. And it's actually quite detailed, and it will show you publications and memberships and their about summary and their experience. And you get a lot of information about that. But again, for some of us, we'd look at it and it's like, oh, that's a lot to read before a discovery call. Or maybe you're going to, pitch to be something, you want to speak at their event and you just want to get to know somebody a little bit. So again, if you're an auditory learner, you could actually just go ahead and upload that and give me the summary. And it's like, I got a fabulous summary of you, Michelle. It was fabulous. I had to share it with you. And then I said, can you give me an infographic? And it gave me an infographic. And again, I'm a visual learner. So if I was to get on a call with you, if I didn't know you, if I had that infographic, then, oh my goodness, that really could give me some talking points. And I could have gone one step further and maybe uploaded my own profile and asked it, what's the intersection? What is the intersection between myself and Michelle so that when I get on this discovery call, I'm going to talk about the things that will excite us both. So it was just like,
I was so impressed. I listened to it a few seconds before we jumped on the call. I was like, wow, I didn't even think about it for LinkedIn profile. The use cases we're probably not even thinking right now of all, but the purpose was just to share if you're an author, speaker, expert, and you feel and you have all this information and you need help synthesizing, finding a through line. Clients come to me sometimes like, I have this body of work. What's the through line of all these blog posts and stuff? So it can give you some preliminary if you're looking for some answers, and also to take it to the next level or it's just it's self-discovery at the highest level and also self-discovery for your work, your thought leadership. And that helps us have sound bites and be able to talk about our own stuff so eloquently and precisely with brevity that people get us. And so it just amplifies the good work at an impact. We're trying to make it scaled.
I love that. And I just had another thought drop in real time. I started thinking about if you were a guest on somebody's podcast or maybe a guest on somebody's LinkedIn Live, that is evergreen content. And a lot of people are sort of one and done. It's like, okay, it posts and that's the end of it. And you're just like, no, you should be taking that and using that content over and over again. So again, if you are a guest on somebody's show, you could, and you know what? This doesn't matter if it was a week ago or a month ago or a year ago. It's all good. And you could actually go and again, take that YouTube or podcast link or whatever, most podcasts you can actually download and then upload into this as well. And then you could say, what were my brilliant sound bites? Ask it to go in and get you those summaries of like, what is that awesomeness that I shared so that I'm not just leaving this content on the table. And again, it doesn't matter if it was a year ago, if that's still part of what you do, you need to continue to be visible with the content you've already created. It's not always about making the next new thing.
Well, that's exactly it. With the PR, we need to amplify it. And let's talk about how it plays in AI visibility. You and I have been both working on, and this is a big task that I need to do is go take all my past podcast guesting that I was on shows the last 5 years and take all that and make a blog post out of it because I don't necessarily have the transcript or LLMs can't read the transcript sometimes from Apple or Spotify, so we can do it ourselves and make a blog post out of it. So say you went on this LinkedIn Live, you can make content from it. You can make a blog post for your site You can do LinkedIn posts for it. You can it's like a book too. A book I tell clients and you do too, once you have your book, it's endless content. You don't need to reinvent the machine here. You don't need reinvent the wheel here. You're gonna have and then it can make video. I mean, it's all you need because it from a brand positioning standpoint, you're trying to bring one message to market so that you're known for something, you know? And so people struggle because they're like, what am I gonna post? Well, if you're really clear and have a defined lane and your work, you just say the same thing over again. Now, I don't mean it like that, but you know what I'm talking about. You got to stay in your wheelhouse of where you are and what you're trying to solve. And taking all that helps you do that. And you never fall out of that sphere of what you're trying to communicate.
Exactly, and don't they say that people need to hear the same message 7 times? I think it's probably now 10. Yeah,
Or
10,
even
maybe
50. I mean, I've
15.
heard so many numbers on that. I don't know if people actually humanly know, but it's definitely more than once or twice. Like it's all you say because people see us fragmented, especially on social media where the reach is, barely anything organically. So you got to keep hitting it home. Now, we don't say repeat. Now, we do know people, you and I've seen on LinkedIn, people just post the same thing over and over again. We're not saying that. No, there you tell stories around it, you have a contrary point of view, you have a behind the scenes. It's basically you take your through line and just mix and match. Do you remember those magazines articles of like how to have an outfit in 30 days and you have like a capsule wardrobe? It's basically your message in all these different ways. And you're saying the same thing with this, little capsule of information, but you're just switching it up different ways and people get the gist of it. And you don't have to go buy a new wardrobe here. You've got all your content in one area. And that's something I'm gonna do because when we're tight and have a lane of that we're here for, that's all we need to be doing is talking about it. Like for you, what is yours? It's all about author,
Books.
books,
It's all about books.
visibility, all that stuff, marketing, that's your tight lane and you have enough to talk about. But do you ever find because you're so close to it that you ever find like, oh, what am I gonna say today? Does that ever hurt or happen to you, Jillian?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes,
Yeah.
like, have I said it all? But it's like, no, if you get some ideas about, okay, just taking my own quotes. I read something the other day, and my last book, I was using all these quotes from Alice in Wonderland because it was part of the theme of the book. But one of the things I was reading the other day is it said, for your next book, authors, think about quoting yourself. Like we love to put quotes at the
Yeah.
top of each chapter of a book, but they should be your own quotes. Well, where are you going to get those quotes? You're going to get those quotes with your LinkedIn Live appearances, your podcast appearances. So the content that you're sharing, the stories that you're sharing, and all these different things, they can actually be turned into future books with quotes, with stories, and again with posts as well, because I believe wholeheartedly that if we confuse, we lose. That's the marketing thing. So we have to be very careful when we're on social media to not post about too many different topics. Nowadays, with the way, especially on LinkedIn, with the way the algorithm works, is they want you to stay in a particular lane. They don't want you. This week, I'll talk about this, and this week. So you have to have what you say, but always with a different spin, a different quote, a different way of looking at it. And I think tools like this, they give us that way that we can take the same piece of content and how can I now, rip it apart? When you talk about like when you had the image of I just saw paper dolls. Do you remember those paper dolls? And then would have 7 outfits.
Yes.
Right? And it's the same thing. Like if you travel, it's like you wear a black shirt and black pants with 7 scarves and a sweater and this and that. It's the same idea.
Exactly, and I know you can download your LinkedIn data and then, cut and paste I'm not on Insta or I don't post much on Instagram, but especially on LinkedIn where we live, you can get your data in those posts and I'm gonna experiment with that and put it in Notebook LM and, help you organize it and, go to town on that. And so you're not recreating new posts all the time. Go back to what you're doing. Just say it slightly. No one's going to remember. I'm not saying change 2 words. It'll help you redo the whole thing, put some new fresh spin. So yeah, stay in the content wheel of who you are and what you're known for and want to be known for. And especially you have a book and you speak, you're already built in. That's why I love working with speakers and authors too, because they already know what they want to talk about, right? They have that. So use Notebook LM to amplify your voice, get your voice in check, and the branding, PR, visibility options are just unlimited. That's why I don't think we've even scratched the surface of opportunity. You and I are going to go geek out and find more ways to use this.
And especially too, I'll be honest, I think I used something the other day where it created slides. I was trying to get some slides. I was preparing for a presentation and I had stats and I was just going, how can I make these stats visual? Because again, I'm a visual learner. So I didn't want to put, 1 out of 5 people or, 1 out of 10 people actually will write a book. It was like something like that. It was like some sort of stat. I don't remember what it was because I'm terrible with math. But that's what I actually did was I put part of my presentation into Google Notebook LM. And I said, help me with some slides. And I was able to take some of those slides. And the most of the presentation was my own, but those ones with the visuals for the stats, that was brilliant. And again, they just make it for free. It's like fabulous.
It's unbelievable. So it can make slides too. I haven't done that, so can't vouch for
And
how
a video, and a
good.
video.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even with videos, they have different styles. And same with your infographics. Do you want it to be realistic? Do you want it to be like a sketch note? Do you want it professional? Do you want it realistic? It's like there's so many different options. And to be honest with you, I think this is something that Google is going to probably just continue because it's offering more things and you see beta. And
Yeah.
so, okay, they're probably just going to add more and more to this. So, speakers, authors, I absolutely implore you, go geek out on this. It's free, play with it, and just know, even the fact that with your presentation and you shared the audio, were you able to share it from Google Notebook LM or did you download it and put it somewhere else? What did you do?
I put it in my Google Drive and then I made a shareable link and that people just listen to it. I even shared it with my mom and she was working on an introduction to her next book. And I was like, you got to go listen to this because she needed some, tidbits to help connect the dots on something. And she she was blown away. So it's easy to share that. And I had people download it and listen. So I was just in awe. I remember a year ago in awe. For some reason, it just didn't click until, sometimes it wasn't the right time.
Right.
And now it is. And the fact that it's a safe space for our work is reassuring. It's comforting to know that, the author's hard work is not going to be out there. And that's what I think most people are worried about with LLMs. And I'm not someone I use AI and I think it's a great productivity tool. I don't want it to steal artists' work and replace the humanity and creativity of us, but if it can help amplify the hard work, of putting some of this together, then I think we can get out there and make stuff happen in a faster way if we're not bogged down on some of these details, right? And
I love it. I love it. And, I think we always need ways to help us just continue to get our message out there. You write the book, but now you want to get out there and talk about this. So if you got some tools that will help you do this, I just think it's absolutely fabulous. So I'm so excited that you shared this with me. Michelle, you shared it when it came out initially, and I went and I used it and I made a little podcast episode, and then I did nothing. And then you came back and shared it. So, that's why we wanted to share this episode today, because it's just like, we don't want this to be the best kept secret.
We are not gatekeeping. No, we want, especially my women experts and authors, more women on stages, featured in pages, earning better wages, and getting your work out there is how we do it. So let us know. Like, if you're listening to this, reach out to me, to Gillian. I mean, I'm serious. I just think this is such a beautiful tool, and I'm all about sharing the best tools, right? You and I, when we find them for people and authors, it's fantastic. So thanks for having me share this. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And so we'll wrap it up today, folks. Please, if you're not already connected or following Michelle B. Griffin, please do that. Gillian Whitney, either one of us, we're on LinkedIn and we're shining our light. And so we'd love to connect with you. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
That's it for today's episode. And before we go, can I ask a favor? I would be so honored if you could give this show a rating and a review, because that helps more women who are maybe on the sidelines and so ready to put themselves out there, or who are ready for their next level and can find us and learn everything they need to build their visibility, their personal brands, and become thought leaders in their space. Thank you so much. Until next time, take care.